Test, test, test.
Jason, is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
you?
Yes, it is. How are you feeling?
I feel pretty good.
Yeah? So you're good.
Yes. You're recording. No.
You're recording.
Recording. Recording. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, the first question is how old are you?
I'll be 101 February the 15th, 2025.
So the next question is why aren't you dead yet? Okay, so think about it.
I've always had good health, I presume, and God's been on my side, and He hasn't called me home yet. Oh, definitely. It's much easier this year, this generation. We have electric furnaces and don't have to chop wood for our stoves. And we had wash machines now. And I've heard Grandma Gano say they had to go to the creek to wash their clothes. Yes, definitely things are easier this generation and then back years back. In my senior year in high school, the summer we had off between our junior and senior year, I worked at a 5 and 10 cent store. We lived right in Romney, and it was just 2 blocks walking from my house to the store, and that's where my first store job, I think it was $5 a week, if I'm not mistaken. Things was much cheaper back then. I don't know. I never thought that much ahead. Paul and I never talked about, what we were going to do when we got older. Or he was the one that was looking for a job to support me the rest of my life. But I never worried a whole lot. He took care of Pam and I for 3 years before the family really started. I guess I would say the telephone, because you could always keep in touch with somebody, and it didn't take most of the mail back then was delivered on horseback. I guess the first thing would be a buggy, from a horseback to a buggy, and then finally got to a car. But there's so many things that has been invented in the last 100 years that don't remember a whole lot of them, but I'll take the good old years. People will say back in the olden days, but that's not for me. I want where there's running water and heat in the house and stores to buy food and such. Well, I guess it was good old days to be alive and have food in our stomach and a roof over our head. But I would take the easy days first before I would ask for the good old days. When my mother passed away at 69 years old, and I was still in nurses training. Well, my grandmother McKee and granddaddy McKee, both of them passed away within 2 years of each other. And I was always close to my grandmother. Always said if anything happened to my parents, I wanted to live in Cape and Bridge with my grandparents, but never get on dope. That's the biggest advice I've ever known, but nowadays they don't listen to you. They're going to do what they want to do anyway. It feels lonely at times, but when the children say that I talk in my sleep sometimes, maybe that isn't too good. It's hard to tell what I might tell them, but I really don't know exactly how to answer that. That I got the best husband I could find. I wasn't out looking for my husband, but I found him, and he was a good father, and he was a good husband, and I just wish I had been able to keep him a little bit longer. I would have shared some of my age with him. But he was only 4 months older than I was, so we really enjoyed life. Did a lot of traveling before he passed away. Well, you better think twice before you get married too young. It's a different life entirely. You gotta get up and go when you want to go and do what you want to do, and it's a big change, especially when your husband wants to go one place and you want to go another. So if you've got children, they're going to be home with the children and let him go. But my husband wasn't like that, so I guess that's the reason we were married 66 years. Well, we both shared things together. Where he went, I went. We never went to bed angry. And I could get stubborn just sometimes, but the next morning I didn't know anything about it. I guess when we had our unexpected twins, because the doctor had never mentioned it, and I never thought that I had gained that much weight to have twins. Jennifer weighed 5 pounds and 2 ounces, and Mother took her home with her when she was discharged. And as long as I had Jeffrey with me at the hospital, he only weighed 4 pounds and 9 ounces, and he had to weigh 5 pounds before he could be discharged. So he and I stayed in the hospital 10 days. We still sit down and laugh about it because twins was in the 5th generation in Paul's side, and we couldn't get any on the Keckley side.
Well, you did a good job answering all those questions. I love to hear all your answers.
I don't know what they'll sound like on tape, though.
Well, they'll sound good because they came from your heart. I think that's the important thing.
But for me to live to have 100 birthdays, I never gave that a thought. And Paul and I never talked about how many children we was going to have or how long we were going to live, or we just took everything for granted. And when our time come to go to heaven with Jesus, he would tell us, or he would take us. He wouldn't tell us, he wouldn't tell anybody, but that's what I'm waiting for.
Are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. I'm getting a little lonely now.
Yeah. Well, I know you're lonely, but you're surrounded by people that love you. And we sure have loved having you on this earth all this time. But we know you're ready to go.
Well, there's things I should have done that I didn't do.
Like what?
Well, I should have really, we brought our children up in the church, but I never sat down and read to them out in the Bible like I should. Of course, we always had our prayers together at meals and at bedtime, but you can't talk to God too much.
Well, let me tell you something. You have 4 children, and all 4 of them believe in Jesus, and they've all given their life to Christ, and they've all lived a Christ-like life, that their children also now believe in Christ, and their grandchildren, your great-grandchildren. So I think you did enough. Even if you didn't read the Bible to them every day, you obviously planted that seed in their life, and they've passed it on. So I don't think that should be any regret in your life.
No, we kept them in church and,
Yeah.
and church activities and such, but you can't talk about God too much, especially at home.
Not in this family.
Well,
I think you've done a great job talking about God, and you've created quite a legacy, so that's not something you need to cry about.
and especially, talk to your husband so that you don't have any arguments and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean arguments, but you can't have everything just perfect,
Yeah.
You got to say what's, at least that always was the way I always had to say what I think, and I should count 10 sometimes before I open my mouth.
That's good advice, to count to 10 before you open your mouth. That is definitely good advice. You've been a wonderful grandmother. I love you.
I love you too, honey, and I hope I haven't answered those questions too silly, but
Oh, no, you did a perfect job.
now I won't get to hear that on tape, will
You might.
I? The music, it's nice, but I hate to watch TV and or listen to news, and then they're playing the music the whole time. They're giving the news, and you can't hear both of them at one time. So
All right. Well, we'll try to make sure in your video we don't put too much music.
okay, thank you.
You did a good job. I love ya.
I don't know. You might say something else when you might say, "Let's forget it all" when you hear it.
No.